Alright, guys.
Gentlemen, behold!
Alright, everybody, welcome to the third episode of the Suburban Media Gaming Podcast. I am the host, not Josh, and with me today is another host, other Josh.
Helios. Hello, guys.
And
the most elusive guy on the planet, because I'm too elusive, even for you.
We have Duncan, whose YouTube channel is 3 Elusive.
Dang.
Ooh, rough. And
Ooh, face!
and over there at the end we have Andy McHG.
I'm not so Josh.
Yes. You can
He hasn't even named Josh.
You can find me on Twitter at
That's how
_Josh.
not Josh I
Duncan on YouTube at 2Elusive, and Andy on YouTube as Andy HG.
Ah, what's that? What's that there?
Real quick, let's go through everything you guys are playing. I just started Undertale for the first time
In years.
today.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun, I guess. What about you, Josh?
I picked up Ultra Sun and Moon again because I've been slacking in that game since the second island.
That's fair. I really like Sun and Moon. I think Ultra Sun and Moon may be a little not quite as much,
A little bit
but
too much.
but Sun and Moon is amazing. Mr. Duncan?
Speaking of Sun and Moon,
He's an okay.
You want to get sued?
but yeah, I'm also playing Sun and Moon, particularly Ultra Sun, and that's just because I've been meaning to get the game for a good while, and I never got around to getting it, and now I have it, so I'm playing through it. And I'm also going through the game as my starter that I wanted to pick from the beginning, which is Rowlet. By the way, I nicknamed him Ishida.
It's a Bleach reference.
Yeah,
So
I don't play Bleach, so I'm
But all you Bleach fans will get the reason why I named him that.
the numerous amount of Bleach fans within our 6 subscribers. Nice looking out.
Half of us.
All right, Andy.
So right before we started, I got my butt kicked at Beyblade Burst Battle Zero, which is a Japanese exclusive Nintendo Switch game.
Nice. All right. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about here at the show. Today is Sunday, November 11th. Just 2 days ago, the Smash demo came to the King of Prussia Mall, which is super local for us. Mm-hmm. So 3 of the 4 of us got to go out there and try it out in the mall, which was super duper fun. Me and Duncan hit it up as soon as it opened, and Andy was there a little bit later. But we got to try out, I got to try out 3 characters. I got to try out Daisy, who is, I mean, she's an Echo character. It's exactly what I expected Daisy to be, but she was super duper fun. I got to play my main. I got to play a round as Little Mac, and I did a round as the captain, the Falcon captain.
The bad Ganondorf.
OG Ganondorf. And I mean, I think that it's a lot of fun. I'm really excited. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was also there with Josh at the same event, only I was there since 8:30.
And it started at 10.
Yeah, it started at 10, but it was well worth it because I got to go first,
Mm-hmm.
and I was guaranteed the first slot. So even when everybody was lined up, I just moseyed right on into the front of the line, and I didn't care if I was getting salty looks or not.
Yeah. Well, the guy that was there, he was just like, "You were here first. You get to be in the front of the line."
Oh yeah, he legit said it.
And I was just like, yes.
But as for the characters I did get to try, I got to play it at least twice because they were doing 2 rounds per person before it got too crowded. Then they did once and dones.
Mm-hmm.
The demo itself, when you got up there, lasted for about 2 minutes.
It was like 3-minute rounds, I think.
Oh, 3 minutes?
Yeah, it was like 3-minute non-stock smash bar on
And items are on.
and stage hazards.
Yeah.
And also the stages itself was random.
Yeah, they were randomly picked stages.
And yes, you're right. The hazards were definitely on because I remember that the tornado appeared in the Hyrule Castle.
Yep.
So they were definitely on. The characters I immediately tried out was Young Link because that was a character I was looking forward to playing as the most. Despite Wolf being an option, but I just really wanted to see how he played in this. And he's exactly how I expected him to be. He's faster Link with all of his melee speed. And he is also a pseudo-spacey, mainly because of the fact that you can shoot your projectile, which is his flame arrow in this case, pretty quickly before he lands, which is what most of the spaceys are pretty famous for. And the other character I got to try was Richter Belmont, a.k.a. Joseph Joestar, if he has his black coat on. Like, there were people in the back of the line who was yelling, "Oh snap, it's Joseph," the whole time.
Yeah, that the second round that we played when you were playing as Richter was just a big JoJo reference, because I was playing Mac, and I got my final smash off twice, which is, since they removed transformation final smashes from the game, instead of just going Giga Mac and clomping around the stage, you just Aura the person in front of you. So I got to do my Aura on you at least once.
Yeah, because the other player knocked me right into...
Yeah, I heard it was Sinclair.
Yeah, he threw a shell,
Thanks,
and
homie.
I just happened to be right there, and I got knocked into the smash along with Psycho Break, a.k.a. 7, a.k.a. my good friend Quan.
Okay, though.
We don't talk about that mistake. Don't worry about it. You heard nothing.
The king of the Fire Nation.
I mean, Josh was pretty much on fire when he landed that attack.
Yeah.
I hope you, if you're listening to this, I hope you know we're saying this with love.
No, we're not.
Yeah, we...
You do know that we have to send him this episode now, right?
I'm already on it. But other than that, Richter played exactly as I would expect him to play. He's a solid zoning type keep away character. You use your sub weapons from his game to keep people away from you, as well as his whip, who has the longest reach in the entire game. So,
And it has tip, right?
Not 100% confirm if it's tip or not.
Okay.
I actually do want to experiment before I go out and say that it has tip. But what I can confirm is Rip Shulk's smash range and Rip Corrin's smash range, because Corrin had the longest reach before Richter became a thing. So, well, technically it's Simon, Richter's an Echo, but
The Belmonts.
the Belmonts is better. Yeah, that's the best way to sum it up. But yeah, other than that, it was a really great time. I had a lot of fun, and I feel that Andy wants to also chime in about something.
So I was mad that Pokemon Let's Go was not available.
Okay, yeah. So the Nintendo event, if you haven't been to the one in the King of Prussia Mall, or whichever one is closest to you, I know that they're all across the country right now.
Link in the description.
But the Nintendo event, there was Mario Kart 8 Deluxe had a booth there. There's a Super Mario Party booth. Just Dance had a booth.
Second.
There was a
Didn't Fortnite have
yeah,
one?
there was a Fortnite, like a little Fortnite stand, and Let's Go Pikachu is featured there. There's a trailer, and there is going to be a playable demo on Friday.
That's the
That's
release
the
date.
16th?
Yeah, that's
which is the day it
But
comes
that's
out.
the release date, though. It's like, why would you have a demo when the game's already out? Why not beforehand for, people who are, on the fence about it, or, skeptical about it, just so they could give it a try, see what it's all about? Or for me, who pre-ordered the games.
Well, see, to be fair, I didn't pre-order mine, so a demo at that point would actually be kind of ideal.
Yeah, I see.
But still, yeah, it's like for anyone to try it out before they decide to pre-order. Why not have something for them to play before the actual release date?
See,
Instead of, oh, hey, too bad, come back Friday.
See, I actually did want to play that demo as well, because I'm one of those people that are on the fence. When I first saw the game, I was pretty psyched about it, but then I saw that it had the whole Go mechanic in there. And it's not that I'm completely against it or anything, it's just I want to know if I'll actually have fun with this title before I go and get it. Like, it's like when I purchased Ultra Sun, I knew I was going to have fun with that immediately. But
Honestly, long story.
with Pokemon Go, I'm sorry, not Go, Pokemon Let's Go, I feel like I need to get more information. I need to get a hands-on experience before I can get the game.
I'm pretty firmly off the fence. I don't think that I'm going to get it. I love Pokemon. I love Kanto. I don't like Pokemon Go. I don't know what they can really do to make me want to get it. I mean, the Pokeball controller is cool, But
Free Mew.
that's kind of it. I like if I really want to play Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu or Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, I'm gonna just play Yellow or hack Fire Red and give myself an Eevee at the beginning. Like I have plenty of ways to play Kanto. I have Pokemon Yellow on my 3DS as a digital download. I didn't hack it. I did all the glitches. I glitched my way through that. Got my level 100 Nidoking before I fought Brock.
Wow.
Makes the game really easy when you get a level 100 Nidoking in Viridian Forest, let me tell you. But yeah, I think if the demo was there, I definitely would have given it a shot just to see what it is, but I'm pretty firm. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get it. I'm just going to steal Andy's copy and
It's like, I think that's the problem, though, is just...
There was no demo.
Yeah, it's like, just to get a feel for it, you know?
Yeah.
I know the Pokemon Go mechanic has definitely rubbed people the wrong way, but I would want to see how well it's implemented, you know, in person. You know, it could be, you know, like, whether you're doing it with the actual Switch in handheld mode or... You know, just using the Joy-Cons, you know, see how comfortable
Or
it
if you
is.
throw Pokeballs with the touchscring.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to test. Because I'm the type of dude who, like, I actually use the Switch like the way it was designed, which was to play it on the go. So if I'm, like, I don't know, on a subway train, how am I going to catch Pokemon if I'm sitting there and I have to use the Joy-Con only, so I don't have, like, a big TV to, like, utilize that? What am I going to do? Just, like, set the Switch down?
Hold it in one hand with the Joy-Con in the other?
Yeah, just...
It's like, at least with, like, games like World Ends With You, they give you the option to use your touchscreen.
Yeah. I'm not super happy with the controls on that.
But... The handheld mode, you just use the gyroscope within the Switch itself. But that's, again, I want to know how that feels. You know, am I going to be accidentally hitting people if I'm, like, on a subway or something playing this game?
So, I guess overall, the Nintendo event...
Oh.
Smash was fun. Pokemon Let's Go, not there.
Back to Smash.
Yeah, Andy, what are your opinions on Smash now that we've underailed?
I really like Isabelle.
Good.
I got beat by her when I used Crown. And Crown's actually pretty okay. He's like, okay, we finally have him in Smash. I feel like I definitely want to use Isabelle. I definitely would like to use Richter. So not much. So, you know, not much of my opinions from last week changed.
Yeah. I think, you know, I wish I got to try out the Inklings, but the line was so long. It was in front of all the stores down the hallway before they, like, wrapped it around the booth itself. So I did not want to get back in the line to try out the Inklings, but I'm excited. I'm gonna definitely pick it up day one.
I'm also going down there again Saturday, and I'm gonna play my boy Shulk.
And get those prizes.
And also try to get them prizes as well.
Or tote bags.
Because everyone's excited for tote bags.
I mean, it's a Nintendo Switch tote bag. It looks pretty slick. I wish I got one.
It's nice, but I don't need it. I have enough bags already.
Well, better than a Fortnite poster. Which I feel bad for the person who was behind me in the line for Smash, because I was like, at least it's not a Fortnite poster, and guess what he got?
He got a Fortnite poster. Oh my god.
After I said that.
Eric was super pumped to get his Fortnite poster.
Wait, isn't that what he got?
Yeah.
How telling.
I love that face he made. It's like,
I will say this. I don't know if it's out yet, but Overcooked was actually really fun.
Oh, yeah.
Whenever that comes out, I definitely would want to do an LP on this channel. Playing that game.
Overcooked.
It's a
now,
nice
are you gonna
friendship
actually
killer.
Are you actually gonna do the LP, or are you gonna be yelling at us from behind like Gordon Ramsay?
Both.
What are you? An idiot sandwich.
What are you, a Jill sandwich?
What's wrong with this rice? It's raw. It's freaking raw.
Oh, goddamn.
All right, well.
But in Super Mario Party, then again, I didn't play the board game half of it, but I did like the mini games. Like, it's really fun, especially the rhythm game that they had playing was really cool.
I've heard a lot of good things about Super Mario Party.
Just Dance 2019. my students will love it. For those who don't know about me, I'm actually a teacher outside of the YouTube world. And my students are from the age of 3 to 7. So we have a lot of kids who love Disney, who love Coco, who love Frozen, who love Moana. All the good stuff. And there's some good songs from those movies in Just Dance that I know they would be all over.
Nice.
But no Pokemon Let's Go. Why Nintendo?
Just gonna keep coming back to that. Well, I think that wraps up our thoughts on all of that. So we can move on to our topic this week, which I didn't prompt any of my co-hosts until just before we started recording. So hopefully they got their thoughts in order.
Nope.
There wasn't a lot of notable news this week, at least not in the video gaming world. There's a Magic the Gathering tournament, Pro Tour, Guilds of Ravnica, which I'm excited about, but literally nobody else at this table is, so we're not going to talk about Magic. We're instead going to talk about The Legend of Zelda as just kind of a general concept. We're going to talk about some of our favorite games, some of our least favorite games. I'll kick us off. Wind Waker is the best Zelda game.
I agree.
Yeah.
End of podcast.
Yes.
I agree.
Yes. As soon as I pulled out my list, I was like looking through it to see what I put down, and that was definitely like one of the games as my favorite Zeldas.
I think Wind Waker does a good job of taking everything that I love about Zelda as a franchise and putting it in one single game. You've got a kid who is just kind of in the
lazy butt.
He actually is.
Yeah, I mean, the start of the story, he's just a kid, right? And he just ends up he has to get his sister back, and that's where everything starts. And I like how it takes Link and makes him really expressive, really makes him a character in the story as well.
Even though he still doesn't talk.
He doesn't talk, but he's so expressive with his face and the cartoony graphics that it got, critically panned for at the time.
Yeah,
really helped that.
Yeah, but then in the HD, when they were talking about those same cartoon animations, they're like,
this is
these
so
are
good.
so good. These animations are
But
great.
it also does a good job of giving the scale of adventure with sailing from place to place, which I know a lot of people complain about. I never had a problem with it. I think the sailing was real slick. The dungeon designs are all interesting, if maybe not super duper challenging, but the dungeon designs are interesting. The music's top notch. The boss fights are
If you had to pick your favorite dungeon from Wind Waker, what would it be?
The air temple is close second, but I have to give it to Dragon Roost Isle because the music in Dragon Roost Isle is undeniably one of my favorite tracks in that game, and I know it's the first dungeon, so it's not super difficult, but it does a good job of using the grappling hook, and it's a good first dungeon, and the boss fight is super dope. You like grapple onto a dragon's tail, super goofy. Any opinions from anyone else?
Yeah, I agree heavily on Wind Waker, and personally, Wind Waker for me is one of my most relaxing games ever. There's few games I really consider relaxing. Super Mario Sunshine is one of those games when I don't try to 100% it. And Wind Waker is one of those for me. And I'm going to say this for a lot of the Zelda games. They all have their own charm and they have their own atmosphere, and I really love Wind Waker for that reason. And I'm not going to really discuss it too much because I don't want to skip out on any details. Majora's Mask is my favorite.
Okay.
Because I think it has personally my favorite atmosphere of any Zelda game. And it's just I get the most out of it. And it was actually my first Zelda.
Okay.
No, it's funny you say that you get the most out of it when Majora's Mask was just originally intended to be just an add-on to Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
An add-on gave you more than the actual game.
But the thing is, I love it because it embellishes.
It does.
What Ocarina does, you know? I enjoy Ocarina. I know a lot of people want to badmouth it just because, it's probably the most talked about Zelda out there besides Breath of the Wild, which I'll save my thoughts for that. But I think Majora's Mask...
by the way.
But yeah, I think Majora's Mask kind of perfects it.
I can understand
what
that.
Ocarina did.
Yeah. I got you.
And it's still to my favorite Zelda game. And Hopefully I will do a review of it on my channel, because I don't think it gets as much praise as it should.
All right.
Even with the 3DS remake, I don't think it gets as much love as it should. Not to say my other favorites are bad or anything like that, which I'll get to in a bit.
Every other Zelda game is bad.
No, that's for later.
All right, Duncan, any words?
Yes. So I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of what other Josh and Andy has said earlier, because I also really love the mess out of Wind Waker.
Mm-hmm.
If I have to say what my favorite thing about Wind Waker is that Josh hasn't mentioned yet, I love how they refined the 3D combat for the Zelda titles. I felt like Wind Waker was the very first 3D Zelda that gave more fluid combat to Link's swordplay. I love how he can now like dodge behind enemies and hit them from behind or jump in the air.
The parry move?
The parry,
The parry move where he can like jump in the air and like helm splitter them.
Yeah.
And that was really fun to do.
Yeah.
Another thing that I also really liked is how you can pick up weapons that you find and just whack people across the face with them. It's like, oh, I got a stick, and I just found on the ground, and I'm just gonna beat you over the face.
You
with
beat
it.
the bokoblin, he drops his stick, and you pick up his stick, and you just chuck it at the other enemy.
Actually, it's more satisfying when the Dark Knots drop their sword, and you just have this really huge blade.
No, you just like you pick it up, and then you're looking
like
at the
Cloud.
hero sword, and then you look at the Dark Knight sword, and it's just like.
I'm Cloud from Final Fantasy now.
It's like you're a little mini Cloud, and then all of a sudden you just chuck it at them and they die. But and also to piggyback off of Andy, I really love Majora's Mask. Like Majora's Mask was the first Zelda game the first 3D Zelda game that I've ever played. I didn't play Ocarina of Time until like later, but it was Majora's Mask that was part of my childhood. And I love the mass transformations you've received. The day system was a very, very good concept, especially when you know how to abuse it. The worlds was dark.
Yes.
And gave me nightmares as a kid, but I loved every second of it.
It was scary. It scared me. It was great.
And if something scares you just right, you just like fall in love with it.
And what I liked about that is the fact that the actual NPCs, they reacted to this crisis that was happening. But if there's any other honorable mention that I have to list as my favorite Zelda titles, and I'm just gonna give you quick hits. It's definitely Link to the Past / Link Between Worlds, which is its sequel on the DS. Both really great games. They give you that explorative feature that a Zelda title had, and doesn't exactly hold your hand, but it gives you a good idea on where you need to go in order to progress through the game, with a lot of optional areas to go to make Link stronger as you see fit. The next one I should also mention is Link's Awakening on the Game Boy.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Now, while yes, it is, you can consider it a little bit to be a poor man's Link to the Past.
Well, Link's Awakening
But
on
was
the
made
original
for
Game
the-
Boy?
On the original Game Boy.
Yeah, that's beforehand, right?
I thought that
I think the
that
Super
game.
Nintendo
yeah.
I think came out
The
first.
Super Nintendo came out
Yeah,
first.
yeah. Super Nintendo version came out first, which is
Yeah.
Link to the Past.
Well, Link's Awakening was the one that was supposed to tie together the Oracle games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely can be put off as a poor man's Link to the Past, but it's a poor man's Link to the Past that's still really fun.
Yeah, it's actually still really good.
And speaking of the Oracle games, Ages. Ages
I
was
did
really
love
good as well.
I did too.
Ages, what I loved about Ages is that the time mechanic was done well, the dungeons were designed well, the item usage was also really good, and the game itself just flowed really, really nicely. It was clean.
I am gonna disagree with you on Link Between Worlds, but we can get to that a little later. First, let's let Josh here talk about
right.
what's a Zelda game or two that you fancy.
Well, all right. Let's all get out of the way. Wind Waker. I just
All
to
right,
answer
podcast over.
just to answer your earlier question about my favorite dungeon from that one, real quick, it would probably have to be the Tower of Gods. because
Yes.
I don't know. I just really enjoyed the puzzles in that one. Like it wasn't too complicated for you to solve by yourself, but they still had like their own little like I guess atmosphere where like everything just flowed. I think the thing that I really liked was that anything you did in that dungeon could affect a different part of it. Like if you do one thing, a separate part of it can open up, or if you do this one thing, there's this one like in the beginning where you had to activate certain switches. You thought that it's only the bottom half, but no, you're actually climbing it all the way to the top. And I don't know, I just really like that system when it comes to levels.
Didn't the Tower of Gods, wasn't the last boss fight in that Puppet Ganon? Or
No, it was a weird. It was a weird guy with like a head and two hands.
It was literally Andros, and
Uncle Andros.
That was definitely a favorite dungeon of mine as well. And I also love the music that played.
Yeah, the boss music was really good. But I just really liked Wind Waker because
music in Wind Waker is top notch.
Yes. I also agree with the music. The music, there's like no music in that game that I don't really like. I like all of it, but no, I just really like Wind Waker because it was one was because it was the first Zelda game I've ever beaten, and that always felt nice. Even though when I got to like the Earth Temple, I got stuck because as a kid I was really afraid of Redeads.
Wait, what was the Earth Temple again?
It's the one where you went in with Medley. Is that how you pronounce her name?
Oh yeah.
It's with her brother.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the Redeads. I remember the Redeads in that game.
See, here's the thing. When I first found out about
Redeads, I love it.
Because it's like in the when they first showed up in like Ocarina of Time, they have like that quick like stock scream when you get close to them. And it's like, okay, that one's not so bad. But with this one, the scream that they let out when you get close and try to run away is like, ugh. So that's why I always did the bomb approach on that one.
Not even Twilight Princess's Redeads, the grittiest looking Zelda game, didn't have that fear factor like the Wind Waker Redeads did.
Yeah,
Holy
and mind you,
Christ.
the Redeads, yes, they still have that cartoony look just because it's Wind Waker, but
yeah, they fit with the art style, but they're still terrifying.
They're still kind of scary.
Yes.
But I like the only honest issue I had with it was the Triforce collecting thing, which they did do better in the HD thing. Thank God.
I'm gonna say this now before I forget, but Wind Waker HD was the only reason I bought a Wii U. I bought a Wii U for
that's funny.
Wind Waker HD, and it was worth every penny.
Yeah, didn't you get the special?
I got the special edition one with the Zelda design around the outside of the touchpad.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he got the cool looking Wii U.
He did.
My only problem with it is Wind Waker HD was a digital install, so I didn't get a physical copy. But that just means that I'm never going to get rid of my Wii U. It's in a box in my house right now.
What's the reason you keep your Wii U? Wind Waker HD.
Why don't you just get rid of the Wii U and keep Wind Waker HD? I can't. Yeah, but besides Wind Waker, what's some Zelda games that you like?
Well, I did like Ages, only because between the two, I'll say this real quick. I don't hate Seasons.
Okay.
That much.
Thanks for the quantification. That much.
I thought both of them were really good. But I will say that when it comes to Ages, I feel like it's definitely more balanced. Where it comes to like things you do in the outside world and things you do in dungeons. Not to mention the dungeons themselves were constructed a little bit better. But with Seasons, I definitely noticed there was a bit more. The difficulty when it came to dungeons and the outside world were definitely more sporadic in a sense.
It was clunky.
And not clunky, but there are times
there's
where
a lot
like
more spikes.
Yeah, there's
spikes.
more difficulty spikes whereas like with Ages, the farther you went into the game, the harder the game is. Where
There's
Seasons,
a lot more gradual.
Yeah, where Seasons it was more kind of all over the place.
So for me, I don't think I've ever played Ages. I don't think I can remember playing Ages, but I will always have a soft spot for Seasons because I was a terrible student in high school and had an emulator on my school laptop.
Oh no.
Which could play Game Boy games, and I had the ROMs for Ages and Seasons, but the Ages ROM was the emulator didn't run it properly.
Ooh.
So right after the cutscene where you talk to the actual Oracle in the very beginning, the game would crash.
Damn.
Oh really?
Seasons would only crash if you opened up the map. So
really?
I could
Wow.
play that. Well, it wouldn't let you exit the map if you opened up the pause screen and then scroll to the map. So I could play it as long as I didn't open up the pause menu and then go to the map. If I just opened up the map, I could close it. So I could play it.
Wow.
So it was like just a little extra challenging because I could brick all of my progress by accident. But I did play a whole lot of it, and I think I finished it like in high school. So that it's got a soft spot for me because it's the one that actually worked on my emulator.
Oh my goodness.
No, I feel that. I mean, the only reason I had the two games was because I don't know if you guys remember, after beating the game, they give you like a code for something.
They did.
Like, I would experiment with the codes a lot. Like, codes that you can get in Ages work in Seasons. Codes that you can work in Seasons can work in Ages. I was actually able to beat Ages with the Master Sword, which is a level 3 sword that you can only get with the code from Seasons. So it's like, gotta play that one too, I guess. And see, the thing is, I still like Seasons because between the two, that one was the first one I actually ever got to fully play. And I enjoyed it for what it was.
Wasn't it that you had to beat the game and then you sort of do a new game plus in the other version?
Yes.
Yeah.
The thing is that the way the two games work is that, yes, you kind of need both of them to fully complete both versions, because when you defeat one boss in, like, let's say Ages, there's 2 candles that have to be lit. When you beat Ages, you light the candle for Seasons. If you beat Seasons, you light the candle for Ages. And basically when you light both candles up, Ganondorf will appear in whichever game you're playing after the first game.
So, for example, if I beat Ages first and then beat Seasons, he'll appear in Ages.
No, if you beat Ages and you insert the code to play New Game Plus on Seasons, you have to beat Ganondorf in Seasons.
Well, I guess I'm beating him in Seasons. I'm beating Seasons first, so I can beat him in Ages.
There you go.
And like I said, you can get like item capacities for the items like seeds, bombs. I don't think arrows are in that game. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, which one?
In the Seasons and Ages games,
Ah.
they don't have arrows in it.
No, but there was there was a power bracelet.
Yes.
But I only remember that because it looked like a croissant in the sprite for it. It looked like a
the
croissant.
old croissant.
Oh, I remember that croissant sprite. Also, wasn't the boomerang like ridiculously broken in Link's Awakening?
In Awakening.
In
was.
Awakening, yeah.
Yes, it was broken in that one. Not so much in this one.
Oh, they nerfed the mess out of that.
But you do.
Seasons
I
and
think
Ages.
it was in Seasons you can get the level 2 boomerang, right?
Yes.
Because in the level 2 boomerang, you control
You
it. can
remote
control
control.
it.
Yeah,
No,
you just
I'll admit that was cool.
And in Ages, you can actually get the level 2 bracelet, which stops being a croissant and actually turns into a gauntlet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that takes away or
I still found that absolutely hilarious.
yeah, that's just one of the things that I remember about that game is just like, did I just get a croissant?
Whereas in Awakening, it's a croissant forever.
Ooh, hungry.
Like the one vine was like, I almost dropped my croissant.
And like for the longest time I don't know if I'm the only one, but like every single time when I saw the power bracelet, I look at it and I'm like, and I'm thinking this is the croissant version. So it's like, how do you put it? Do you put it on your head?
Like it's
put it
a
with your
bracelet, but it
hands?
looks like it's gonna slide off.
Yeah, I always thought that it was gonna slide off too, to be honest. But I think what happens is that they just didn't have enough sprite. I
Yeah,
guess.
it just
input.
it couldn't. The Game Boy was pretty limited.
Oh yeah.
Yes,
Um,
definitely.
But I mean, I'm glad that you started talking about that because it does tie pretty well into what I wanted to talk about next, which is like the difference between 3D and 2D Zelda games.
Mhm.
And I know I kicked us off by saying Wind Waker is my favorite one.
I think that's
um,
everyone's favorite one too.
And I don't know about everyone's favorite, but it's at least on everyone's lists that they liked, which I'm glad. I'm proud of you guys.
Another consistent game that we love together.
But you were talking about a couple of you brought up 2D Zelda games, and I want to talk about my favorite 2D Zelda game, which is Minish Cap, which is one that
Minish Cap was a good
Minish
one.
Cap.
a lot of people
That's
forget
so
about.
Good.
And I really like it because it takes the art style from Wind Waker and applies it to the 2D games and it's technically a prequel to Four Swords, which I only really like because the Four Swords manga is actually really good. But Minish Cap is super duper fun, and I really liked the. I brought this up to somebody. I was talking to them about it, and they said that they hated Minish Cap because of the first boss. And I was like, how can you hate the fact the first boss is just a single normal-sized choo-choo? Like, come on, my dude! I just thought that was really cool because it really hammered in the scale. Because before that point, the difference between being small and being large was just the sprite work. And it was still really cool walking down the walkway for the very first time, small, and just seeing a big acorn in front of you that's become an obstacle now, right? And I really liked just the sprite work in it, but then you get to the first boss, and the cutscene plays, and the little choo-choo goes into the dungeon and just goes, and then that's what you fight. Yeah. And I was like, that's really cool. It's a good way of bringing across that scale. And, I mean, it's got all the Zelda music and the progression and how the world slowly opens up the more things that you get. I really like Minish Cap. And a lot of people, when they talk about their favorite 2D games, they like to talk about Link's Awakening, and they like to talk about Link to the Past. Which,
Seasons and Ages.
Yeah. Yeah. But, like, A Link to the Past is a big one on a lot of people's lists.
I
mean, that's fair.
I agree. I still like Seasons more, Link to the Past more than I do Minish Cap, but when you mentioned it and me and Erica eventually got it, I played it and I thought it was good.
Yeah.
Dude, Minish Cap
I think the
amazing.
problem with Minish Cap is that I also agree that it tends to be forgotten, but I'll be fair on the other side, when I do mention it around people generally seem to think it's a good game.
Yeah, I mean, people generally think that it's a good game, but most of the time, if you're talking to somebody about Zelda games, they're just like, yeah, I love Ocarina of Time, and Link to the Past is great, and I'm just like, yeah, my favorite 2D game is Minish Cap.
But then they'll be like, oh yeah,
they're just like,
oh,
Minish Cap's a game. Just exactly Duncan's reaction. That's why I didn't bring it up before the podcast, because I really hoped somebody would have that genuine reaction. I'm glad that it happened.
You're welcome.
but like, see, to be fair with me, when I bring up Minish Cap, they'll be like, oh yeah, that was a game. I like that game too. That was a good game.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one that's like generally hated, but it's one that a lot of people forget about, and I think it's because it kind of I don't want to say it got overshadowed by Four Swords, but there's Four Swords, which a lot of people love because it was a 4-player Zelda game, which was really cool, and Four Swords Adventures, which was on a GameCube, and a lot of people love that. And I think that those two games, I'm not saying that they're bad, but I think those two games kind of overshadow Minish Cap a little bit, which, I mean, whatever, to each his own, right?
I mean, at least we don't hate
it.
Yeah.
But what Duncan was talking about earlier, he was talking about a link to Between Worlds. That's the one.
That's the DS sequel, the 3DS sequel.
Yeah, and it's not really. It's like a spiritual sequel. It's not like direct sequel, right?
It's not a direct sequel,
but it's the same overworld.
It happens in the same timeline, I should say.
I don't like that game.
Ooh.
And I like the mechanic where you become flat on the wall and you can slide around. I think that was really cool. you become the illustration of Wind Waker Link, and you like slide around the walls, which I thought was a really cool mechanic, and I like the way that was implemented in puzzles. But overall, I didn't like the game. And I don't want to say it's because it was open-ended, but the way that the dungeons were set up, how it wasn't progressive one to the next. You went to your house and you rented the item from the guy there, whichever one you needed, and I felt like that took away from a lot of the feeling of progressing in a Zelda game. Because to loop it back around to Wind Waker, one of my favorite parts of the story in Wind Waker is how you can see Link grow as a character through the dungeons and what you're facing, and how he interacts with things. And when you start the game, like I said, you're this lazy kid who's asleep in a tower, and you end up defeating Ganon, right? And there's actual, not like super deep character growth, because this was definitely one that was geared a lot more towards kids, but there's still character growth there, and the way that Link interacts with people, and each dungeon is kind of Link growing a little bit. And I felt like taking away the dungeon structure and just giving you all the items right out of the gate kind of detracted from that, in my opinion.
Not to derail it too much, but when you mentioned defeating Ganon and Wind Waker and how you said the game is like catered towards kids, Do you remember how Ganon died in Wind Waker?
Oh, when he got stabbed in the head.
Yeah.
He
stabbed the
no,
driver right
no,
through the
not
head.
not stabbed. He got impaled in the head, which is probably the most badass endings I have ever seen in a Zelda title.
Yeah,
My
and it's because
goodness.
of the parry. The parry also helps because I think
But-
Yeah, that's what you have to do. You have to parry and just like.
But yes, continue. I just wanted to point that out. That
Yeah.
was such a really good scene.
I mean, it is a really good scene, but it's also not like super grotesque, and you can tell like. But like also in that battle, right? Zelda helps you, which I thought was really cool because Tetra is awesome and Zelda is great, and Zelda actually gets to do something. I don't know. I love Wind Waker. If you let me talk about it, I'm gonna keep talking about it.
I know. I just want to point that out.
I said my piece on A Link Between Worlds and like why I don't particularly like that because I like I said, like giving you all the items right out of the gate. I know it's only renting them and they become unlocked permanently when you do finish the dungeon, but I didn't like when the game started and they just kind of like threw you right in the middle of the beginning of the game. They just kind of threw you in. They're just like, here you go. Here's all the items you'll ever unlock in the game. Give me 4 rupees and you can have it until you die, and then you have to pay me 4 rupees again. Or if you finish the dungeon, I don't care. And I was like,
I can understand that.
because I always feel like getting the boomerang. Maybe it's the first item that you get in the game or whatever, but it's still like, my journeys began, and then you open up your item screen and you've got all your items there, and you're just like, my journey is almost at a close. And then in A Link Between Worlds, you kind of start the game and you're like, all right, here's all my stuff. I'm ready to take on Ganon now, I guess. And I mean, this is also going to tie into one of the reasons that I dislike Breath of the Wild. It's not exactly the same reason, but it ties in fairly well with one of the reasons I dislike Breath of the Wild.
like I said, I feel like that's gonna be its own segment.
I felt like we should wait till the end.
Yeah, I'm going to push
talk
that
about
off as long as I can. But yeah, do you have anything to say about? I know Andy's got some things to say.
I will sort of piggyback off of that, and I do like this game, by the way. Zelda 2, which does some really questionable things. It's like, first of all, it's probably the only Zelda game that actually counts as an RPG or actually classified as one.
Yeah.
Despite what a lot of people say. I actually appreciate it. I like a side-scrolling.
Yeah, I was gonna
Zelda.
say, if there's only one thing in 2 that I will ever defend, and that's only one thing, is the fact that it's the first Zelda that tried to be 2D, which, to be fair, at the time, Nintendo were still trying new things. And they thought, let's try and make it a 2D. It wasn't that great, but it was the first try. At least when people told them, this isn't great, let's go back to normal then.
Yeah, they
did walk that back with a link to the past, which I mean, which is I guess a logical step from the first Zelda as opposed to the second Zelda, which is pretty cool.
But I
that's
actually
about
do.
as far as my
Yeah.
defending goes.
Yeah.
I do actually enjoy it because, especially going through some of the temples or castles, palaces, whatever translation you're going with, I actually do find them invigorating, despite how BS some of the bosses are and some of the basic enemies are. It's like, and this is probably going to go along with one of my least favorites, besides Breath of the Wild. I like that it wasn't that cryptic of a game compared to the first one.
Ooh, yeah.
It was definitely more
Like the
linear.
thing that really keeps me from loving it, as opposed to liking it, had to be going with the dungeons in the palaces. That when you die, when you lose all your lives, you go all the way back to the main temple, and that was a really big deal killer for me.
I do like, I don't know if I can put Zelda 2 on my favorite or least favorite list. It's just it's a passable game for me. But one of the things I love about that game is where you start, because you start at Zelda's bed and you see her there and you know what your goal is as soon as the game starts. And what I hate about that game is the combat. And I think that's, if the combat was anything else, it would be way better. But also, if you compare that to other games that had that style, that like 2D side-scrolling combat, that's very similar to a lot of the other games of the era. So take that as you will.
I think one thing that really killed, I think the difficulty was kind of very erratic. honestly, with the game. Like, especially having Death Mountain at, the beginning.
Yeah,
part of the game.
wasn't Death Mountain literally the second dungeon?
Yeah, it was.
I don't know what they were thinking with that. As I said, it's a game that I would probably give like a C at best.
Yeah,
out
it's
of
entirely
out of his other
passable.
titles. Like, it's one I think people hate a little bit too much, but I understand perfectly why people are, rubbed the wrong way about it. But I actually really enjoy it. As opposed to the first Zelda, which I'll save my opinions about that in a little bit. So.
Yeah, you were saying something, Duncan?
I just remembered there was at least one more game that I did have to put on my favorites list. And I'm actually a little surprised that I forgot about it. But that game would definitely have to be Twilight Princess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright.
Now, the reasons why I like that game, I actually did like that they went for more of a gritty art style. Now, don't get me wrong. Absolutely love Wind Waker's
Do you know
art
why?
style. Do
you know why they went for the gritty art style?
That I don't know why they went for the gritty art style.
So there was Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, which I'm going to lump into basically, not the same game, but I'm going to lump into the same category, right?
You can do that,
Which a little bit more serious, a little bit more grimdark, and that was followed up by Wind Waker. And it wasn't like directly followed up, but there was the Master Quest re-release of Ocarina of Time on the GameCube, followed by Wind Waker. Wind Waker's story is a direct follow-up to the bad ending, the young ending.
I don't know which ending it was.
It's one of
I know one of the endings.
One of the endings
to
to
follow
Ocarina of Time, and it's the opening cutscene is Wind Waker, and Wind Waker has that super goofy, lighthearted art style, which I think really works for the game and works for the atmosphere.
Yeah.
But a lot of fans at the time really didn't like that,
Right.
and so they were asking for a more serious, a little bit more dark game, and so we got Twilight Princess, which you literally go into a dark dimension for a good chunk of that game.
That that explains everything. Then.
Yeah, but continue. You're talking about you like the grimdark.
But yeah, so I like I said, while I really love how colorful and cheery and happy-go-lucky Wind Waker appeared, I also like the gritty appearance of Twilight Princess as well. But one of the main things I love about Twilight Princess, first of all, it basically further improved. Like, you're gonna hear this a lot with one of the main reasons why I love these 3D Zelda titles. They improve the combat in Twilight Princess, specifically when you're playing as Link. When you're playing as Wolf Link, the combat is like you basically do the same thing that regular Link does, but it's not nearly as dynamic compared to when you're playing as Link. Because when you're playing as Link, you can do all the things you did in Wind Waker, except it's a little bit more precise on when you can do it. Like, in Wind Waker, you got a prompt on when you can go ahead and slice somebody from behind or helm split them and what have you. With Twilight Princess, you gotta parry them first before you can do any of that. But one of the big things I love about the combat is if you kill certain enemies, you're given the option to impale them before they die.
Yeah,
that was super satisfying to do. And then if you put your sword away, he does the whole like flashy,
the flourish,
the flashy like slice, and then he flips his sword and puts it away. I love doing that. I'm a sucker for doing that.
So in a way, he's kind of like taunt.
Yeah, it's pretty much his taunt. I really love doing that in the game. But aside from that, aside from its visuals and the combat, I did like exploring the worlds. I did like some of the dungeons. There were, I'm not going to deny it, there were a few dungeons that did annoy me a little bit, such as the Goron one, the one that you enter with the Zora suit. I wasn't a fan of that either. And
wow, not a fan of the water dungeon? What a surprise.
Look. People say the Ocarina Water Temple was annoying. Nah, I gotta give that to TP, in all honesty. At least you can warp to like the areas in the Aqua dungeon. You can't do that in the TP one. It was just slow. But that aside, I did like that you can combine certain items.
Oh, so bomb arrows.
Yeah, bomb arrows is really fun to use. Oh, and that also reminds me. I also like that little segment when you enter like a Wild West area and you get to snipe goblins from like certain areas, and they treat it like it's a Wild West area too because of the whole song playing in the background.
Amazing.
Oh, and there's one more thing I do have to bring up. Dark Knot fights.
Okay.
the Dark Knot fights are really fun. I love when they get angry at you after they take enough damage, and they say, alright, you know what? This big sword's not helping me, so I'm just going to chuck it aside, pull out this more finesse weapon, and see if you try to do the same thing. And next thing you know, he's just blocking all your attacks, and he slaps you, and you're like, oh, okay, I have to actually think this time.
So, to bring this back around, to wrap up my 3 favorite Zelda games,
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna catch a lot of flack for this one.
Yo?
Oh boy, I can't wait for this one because
What
I think
is
I know what it is.
Skyward Sword. I absolutely love Skyward Sword. It is on my top 3: Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, Minish Cap. Those 3 are my favorites, and I know a lot of people hate it. And I don't think the motion
Really?
controls
I
are
think it's
that
pretty
bad.
divided.
Yeah,
There's
it's
people
kind of
that
50-50 from
Oh,
what I
yeah,
hear.
I hear a lot more hate than I do love, but
Okay, fair enough.
I know a lot of people had trouble with the motion controls. I didn't. The only part of that game that really annoyed me that I had a lot of trouble with was the darkness fights where the big monster is walking up the hill and you have to defeat it and throw it back down the hill again. I get it that those are a little difficult and they annoyed me too, but besides those, I absolutely love the world and interacting with the world. The dungeons are super interesting. The time crystals are one of the greatest Zelda, like one of the greatest parts of that game is both dungeons with that. You got a whole water level, which is a sea of sand that you are sailing around in a ship with a crystal on it so that when you get close to the sand, it turns into water so that you can sail on it. It's amazing. And the final dungeon is one of the greatest final dungeons in any Zelda game because it takes all of the other dungeons, chops them up into little pieces, and mushes them into one giant dungeon salad. So you're taking things from the first dungeon, things from the last dungeon, combining it into one. You've got, like, each room is themed after a different dungeon, but it uses pieces from other dungeons. So you're, like, using time crystals in the forest area, and you've got, like, boomerang things to do.
That's really cool, actually.
It's really good. And the fight with Demise at the very end that takes place in a different plane of existence, and it's just you and him duking it out. Oh my god, that is amazing.
Also, I really like the visuals for it as well.
Yeah, the art style where it takes a lot of hints from Wind Waker, but brings those like cartoon-esque ideas into a more serious style like Twilight Princess. And it's supposed to look like a Japanese map painting, and it does a really good job of that, and all of the backgrounds look like paintings, and everything's a lot more colorful, but still a little bit more serious.
I will
Andy?
say this. With most of the 3D Zeldas getting remasters and re-releases, I would really like to see Skyward get a re-release on the Switch. You know, especially to Joy-Cons, you could definitely update the controls with that. Or, give an option.
Turn off
That's
the motion controls?
Yes.
Yeah.
How about give me an option to use a controller?
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like if I had that option, I would have probably enjoyed Skyward Sword a lot more.
I feel like a lot of the things that require the motion controls, besides the combat, which, by the way, the one-to-one motion controls for combat make some of the best combat in a Zelda game. I didn't bring it up until now because Duncan was talking about how it improved the combat, but I think that the combat in Skyward Sword with the motion controls is some of the best because it's one-to-one. So instead of like the Twilight Princess Wii port where it just like waggle the Wiimote and he swings, it's actually one-to-one. So if you point the Wiimote up, the sword goes up. And so it actually depends on your horizontal and vertical strikes to hit different weak points. And the Gearham fights where he follows your blade and gets ready to block, and so you have to kind of trick him into different ones, and you have to deflect his projectiles, which are different angles, and so you have to swipe in the... Oh my god.
Yeah, that actually sounds phenomenal.
I think it gets a lot of unnecessary hate.
But yeah, I would love to see the Switch get a version of that. I mean, how many versions of Twilight Princess have we gotten?
2.
3.
Actually, yeah, you're right. 3. See, I don't include the Wii version.
The Wii one was the one that I played.
Oh, I am so sorry.
Yeah, no, I didn't play Twilight Princess until the HD remake.
I played it on the GameCube, and I also played it on the Wii U.
Yeah, I played the one that they mirrored the entire game instead of reprogramming.
I am so sorry, man.
Yeah, there's a reason I don't like Twilight Princess.
But hey, at least you get to hack your Wii with it. because that was a version that people used to hack their Wii's. I'm not joking.
Yeah, wasn't Brawl also another?
You can hack it with the Twilight Princess on the Wii, and you can also. Well, I'm not sure what people did with Brawl. I know they made mods for it.
Oh, heck yeah.
I don't think that you hack the entire Wii with Brawl, but with the map data for Brawl with custom maps,
Yeah.
it accesses the SD card. So if you have the program on the SD card for like Project M and stuff like that, opening up custom maps, it accesses the SD card, and the SD card goes, "Surprise! It's a mod!" And
Yeah.
the Wii freaks out.
Yeah. But again, man, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's my history with Twilight Princess. And I mean, we can use that to segue into, like, you know, I'm gonna use this to segue into Twilight Princess.
By all
where I'm gonna talk
means,
about
go
things
right
I don't like about it.
Go right ahead.
And I don't remember how far I got because I did play it on the original Wii, which is quite a long time ago. But the controls aren't like atrocious. It is waggle tech over actual motion controls, which is a little frustrating. And like riding Epona, I think you had to like waggle the Wiimote to have her eat carrots to boost, which was annoying. But that I think was what started me disliking the game, because it kind of took me out of it. Especially since that's the game that followed up Wind Waker, which even when I played it as a kid, I absolutely loved. So like getting a Wii and Twilight Princess, that started taking me out of the game, and I just think that overall the story didn't grab me, and that it might be that the controls were part of that, but I didn't really get invested in the story. So there was a point, like 2 or 3 dungeons in, where I was just kind of like, yeah, why am I playing this? So I just put it down, and I moved on.
I don't blame you, man.
So yeah,
I really don't.
are there any games? I'm gonna pushing aside Breath of the Wild for a little bit later. Are there any other Zelda games? I know Andy said that he's on the fence about Zelda 2. Are there any other Zelda games that you straight dislike?
I do like it, but it's just stuff I really.
But the first Zelda game is the one that you don't like.
Yeah.
Yeah, go more about the first
one.
one.
I know this is going to give me a lot of flack.
I mean, the fact that you got a lot of flack for the first Street Fighter, which
Fighting Street?
I don't care. Which, listen, I don't care if it was the first game. It was terrible. It was bad.
Oh, it was
The
terrible.
controls were bad. The character selection, bad. Everything about it, bad.
I mean, I don't even.
Street Fighter #1 was terrible, and there is no redeeming it either.
I mean,
I don't care how many
Fighting
HD
Street?
remakes. Yes, that. I don't care how many HD remakes they make of that game. Any version of that game, terrible. It was not good. I don't know why people are denying themselves, saying that was a good game because it started Street Fighter. No, terrible, bad.
I mean, to be fair, I don't even remember Fighting Street. I didn't get enough Street Fighter until 2.
So I think the original Street Fighter was the one that had the glitch that enabled combos.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people know this, but originally combos in fighting games were a glitch.
Yeah.
So what you could do, I think, if you did an attack, if you did the correct input, you could actually cancel the animation for the attack and move into another attack. And Capcom wanted to release an updated version of the game that removed that, and a lot of people got upset because combos were how you won. And so that's kind of become a foothold in all of fighting games is combos. But I think that's really funny how, like, you know, the lifeblood of fighting games and interesting gameplay is all because of a mistake.
Well, how do you think Melee was born?
Oh yeah, wave dashing is a
Glitch.
glitch.
I will say this,
The defective controller thing.
I will say this, I did pick up the anniversary collection of Street Fighter, which has the arcade version of the first Street Fighter. Still terrible.
Okay.
It's like the only good thing is it has infinite continues, unlike the TurboGrafx one I covered on my channel. But yeah, still a terrible game.
Yeah, bad.
But back to Zelda. So with Zelda 1, I know it's a classic. You know, it's nostalgic to many. And I can appreciate it for being the first. Only problem is, it's literally impossible to play without, you know, some kind of actual guide. And I'm not talking about the map, in quotes, map in the game.
It did have the not the Lost Forest. It was actually a desert area, but the Maze Desert area, it was just a big question mark in the original map, and I know that because my dad had the original map.
And yeah, it's like it's literally impossible to beat without a map. And I'm not even talking about like getting started in the second quest or anything like that, but as I said, that to me ruins a game more than anything. If I literally have to look at a walkthrough or something and play, like I mean with like RPG games, you need to know some extra knowledge about the game outside of it. But for the first Zelda, it's one I have to always. It's what I would call a save state game, because literally, unless I have something right next to me, I will never figure out that game.
It is kind of a relic of its age, though. Just the original Zelda game being that hard was just so that it could keep you playing the game for longer, rather than a longer game overall, because it was very small, the original NES cartridge with no memory.
In fact, again, I'm more on the fence with as A Link to the Past, and I appreciate that one better just because it, once again, what I was saying about Majora's Mask to Ocarina, it embellished on what the original did, but it made it better.
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of improvements.
A Link to the Past, I can actually figure that game out without
and literally
having a monitor open while I'm trying to play it.
And follow the story. It actually tells a story as opposed to the first Zelda game, which is kind of like, bam, you're in the middle. Let's go. Talk to the old man and get a sword. What up?
It's like, I know that sounds like a really petty... It sounds like a really petty complaint, but... that's just something that really ruins the experience. Like, I like to be able to sit down, play something, occasionally go to a walkthrough or something.
Well, to be fair, I just think it hasn't aged well.
Oh, definitely not.
Like, I mean, it was probably great at the time. It probably was like one of the best games you played at the time. But then you go back to it, and it's just like, whoo! Don't remember it being this much work.
There's a lot of things that you just have to know to beat that game, too.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the secret areas that you can only get to by bombing the right place.
Yep.
Or burning the right bush.
Yeah, I was going to mention burning the bush.
Yeah,
deciphering grumble, grumble, grumble.
Oh, yeah. That was a thing, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, it was.
Yeah. Like,
or what about the time where you actually get the choice? Do you want to extend your life or replenish your life if you die?
Yeah, how about no?
What about you, Josh? Are there any games that are just Zelda games that maybe you don't dislike, but ones that are not impressive?
Crap. That's the thing. It's like from most
of the
Zelda...
It's a big franchise.
It is.
No, it's not even just the fact that it's big, but from the few ones that I played, I can't really say, besides one that we'll talk about later, I can't really say there's ones I really hate. Or even just generally dislike. The lowest when it comes to Zelda games is just Zelda games that are there, in which case, if we're going by like strictly on the fence, it would be like Seasons, Skyward Sword, yeah, that's it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Oh, wait, right. Forgot about that one.
Uh-oh, here it comes.
Spirit Tracks.
See, I wasn't going to say anything, but he did it on his own.
No, it's like I was thinking, and I'm just like, wait a minute, where's the one that I really... Oh, right, I remember we talked about
You did me
briefly.
proud,
we
man.
We had a brief conversation about it. We can talk about the Spirit Tracks in a second. Because I've just, like 5 minutes ago, praised Skyward Sword. Can you give, like, a brief summary of why you dislike Skyward Sword without saying the words motion controls?
All right, actually, no, strangely enough, I actually can. Besides the motion controls, I just wasn't really interested that much in the story. Granted, the characters were cool, funny, which is always a good thing to me. I don't know. Going back from the Skyloft to going back down, what's that's the second section called? The one where you're going below the clouds? I remember that had a name, but I forget.
I don't remember the exact name. There's the Great Forest and Death Mountain, and then whatever the deserty area is.
Yeah, no, I mean, just The dungeons were cool, but like the overworld was never really that interesting to me. Skyloft, it felt like once I go around in like a circle, I pretty much been through the entire area. And I've beaten that game a couple of times, but like, it's not even so much bad, so much it's there.
I can understand not getting invested in the story. You brought up the characters, and Skyward Sword I think has some of the best characters. It has, I know Peanut Butter Gamer has brought this up. I think it was Peanut Butter Gamer brought this up when he was talking about Zelda games before, but I think Skyward Sword has one of the best Zeldas in it because of her relationship with Link. Just kind of being friends already and interacting like friends.
Yes,
and
it was definitely
kind of
different.
having that. They were definitely like flirting with each other. And I mean, like, you can technically say Wind Waker had that a little bit with
I'm pretty sure
Tetra.
Zelda wasn't a princess.
She wasn't a princess,
but
she was the daughter. She was the daughter of the leader of the
lineage.
yeah. She was the daughter of the leader of the whoever the leader of the town was.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was like a mayor or just like the leader of the tribe, but he was.
I don't know.
That ending made me sad, by the way. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do. But yeah, and I think Impa's storyline is one of my favorite parts of Skyward Sword.
Yeah.
Because they basically give you Impa right at the very beginning, but don't tell you that's who that is. And then by the end of it, you're just like, oh yeah, here's the full story. Here's everything full circle, and everything starts making sense. I don't know. I'm gonna stop praising that. Let's talk about Spirit Tracks. I know Duncan also dislikes the one Phantom Hourglass, which, like I said,
I like it.
I don't think that it's great. I don't think that it's bad. I think it's an entirely passable Zelda game. If you like Zelda games, give it a shot. It is the exact same Link as Wind Waker. It is a direct sequel.
Yes.
It's the same Link as Wind Waker.
That probably doesn't help my liking toward it, honestly.
It's definitely not a detriment. And it's the same Link in Zelda, which I think was really cool that we got like a second chapter to that story.
Yeah.
And I think they overused the touchscreen, obviously, because it was one of those like early DS games where they were really pushing it. The same way they overuse motion controls in the Wii when
the DS touching is good.
Never say that again.
It was their slogan. Look it up.
I know. But yeah, I think we all agree that Spirit Tracks was just a monster of a problem.
Josh, please take it away.
And the funny thing is, on my DS, I have a protection case of a Phantom Hourglass.
Ooh.
Mostly just because it looks cool.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
that's...
I think the problem with Zelda games, it's not so much what's really terrible, it's just, which ones did you enjoy the most? Like, objectively, there's not many that's... A lot of people are like...
I mean, without talking about the CDI
sucks.
games.
Yeah, but those are like...
I'm indifferent towards them, but I haven't fully played through them yet.
Great! I'll grab my stuff! There's no time!
Though I will say...
What are those? Those are the faces of evil!
Though with that, I will say... Zelda's Adventure, the live-action one was... it's like, first of all, it's the most expensive Zelda game, believe it or not.
I only believe it because I'm absolutely sure that it is incredibly hard to find.
And it's definitely not worth your time.
And its collection value is almost entirely because it's bad.
It's only good for ironic purposes.
Yeah, Josh, you were saying about Spirit Tracks. Train game.
Now, mind you, I like train games. Train games are like really, really good.
Hold on, Duncan. Do we have a comment about the price of Zelda's Adventure?
$489.
Yeah, like closer to $500.
$489 used, and that is not even the original box. I don't think.
That is.
That is.
Disgusting.
That's the cheapest it goes for.
Yeah, no thanks.
$500 for
The most
crappy game.
And they said it's the most expensive Zelda.
I didn't think you were lying, but I didn't think it was that much.
Look, I got curious and I almost fell out of my seat when I saw that price.
Yeah. No thanks.
Like, no thank you. I'll just watch it on YouTube.
I'll watch some idiot, some schmuck on YouTube play it. Or I'll emulate it if I'm really curious.
My
But I feel like
wonderful CDI emulator that I have.
But see, I don't want my computer dying because of how terrible it is.
Please, if you install that, you may as well,
kill my computer.
Yeah.
Malware, basically.
But, okay, back to the Spirit Tracks thing. I thought it was just... It made me, for the first time, have that feeling of, I'm bored. It was boring. The tracks train system, which normally I liked, because I think this was during the final days of where I really liked trains. I mean, I still do to an extent, but not as much as before. So I'm like, trains, Zelda, my two favorite things.
Spirit Tracks killed Josh's love for trains.
Yes.
Dang. But would it kill Selfie's love for trains?
I don't know.
Dang, nobody knows.
He killed it so much that he can't even watch Thomas the Tank Engine in the same way.
But yeah, it was just boring, and it really didn't do anything. Like, I didn't finish it, for one, and it didn't really do anything that different from the DS version. They just changed the boat, and they, flicked it off, and then just dragged and dropped a train instead.
That's actually a really good way to describe it, yes.
And that's why there's never been a sequel.
Yeah. What do we do for the sequel of this game? Oh, I know.
Don't.
Erase that.
Put
Train.
a train.
Yep.
Put train on
It's
it.
the same game that there's a train. And we took out all the fun parts.
This one has
Basically.
a train in it.
But yeah, the dungeons were eh. The only thing that I like, and this is ironically, is the final boss, which, by the way, is a train. And you fight on the train, too. Like, you fight, using your own train versus this bigger, more evil-looking train.
I'm sorry,
it's
but...
evil Thomas the Tank
Wait,
Engine
yeah,
now.
that's exactly what came to my mind when you said the final boss was a train. I just pictured an angry, really pissed off, bigger and badder Thomas the Tank Engine.
You guys can talk. That's main my raises. I'm gonna bring up the picture real quick, but you guys can keep going.
Yeah, I mean, what about you, Duncan? What are your opinions on you haven't even played Spirit Tracks.
No, but I have played its former.
Yeah.
Which is Phantom Hourglass. And Phantom Hourglass is the reasons why I will never touch Spirit Tracks.
Because there's plenty of other reasons too, but...
I pretty much felt that if I were to play that game, I would be... Wait a minute. He's got an image. Let me see this.
Final boss, guy.
I'm gonna put up that image. I'm gonna put that image up on the screen, so if you guys are just listening, just take a look at the screen.
Oh my god!
That is the final boss.
Yeah.
Dude, what?
That's the final boss.
Thomas, why?
I actually played that
That's
game and
Diesel.
beat it, and that was it. There you go.
Dang!
I'm like, wow, that is actually kind of the coolest train I've ever seen.
Choo choo, all aboard.
I'm sorry, but I just see a weird cross of Ganon and Sigma from Mega Man X, and they merge and form like this train bottom
To me,
evil.
it kind of looks like a train with Ganondorf, but also fused with Nose Pass.
Yeah.
Or like Probopass or
Yeah.
Nose Pass
Yeah.
from Pokemon.
I can see that too.
Fuse!
Glad you guys enjoyed that.
Oh my goodness.
Alright, after that quick derail, Duncan, you can continue.
Derail.
Ouch.
Yeah, you got it. That's exactly what I did that for.
What was I saying?
You're talking about Phantom Hourglass and what you didn't really like about it.
So, the reasons why I really didn't like Phantom Hourglass, in a sense, Josh summed it up. It bored the mess out of me. Like, when I went through like about maybe 3 to 4 dungeons, what I didn't like about it was, one, I hated the fact that you had to keep returning to the stupid temple to play Metal Gear up until you reach a certain point. Then it's like, oh, you're done. Go do another dungeon or whatever and come back next time. Like, no, I don't want to come back. I want to be done with this already so I can like move on to the next best thing. Second, I really didn't like the sailing. People complain about the sailing in Wind Waker. I felt that the sailing in Wind Waker was really fun, and all you're doing is just, I don't know, riding on an Epona equivalent to a boat. You're doing the same thing you do in the fields in any other Zelda game. You're just on a boat. But in this game, you have to draw your route, and then you just sit and watch.
Yeah.
It's like Okami, but bad.
And the worst part about it is, actually, that's a really good analogy. That's a really, really good analogy. I like that. But the worst part about it is you can't just walk away from your DS and make a sandwich and come back and you're there. You have to watch you sail at a snail's pace because you can get attacked out at sea. And if you get attacked and your boat sinks, you gotta start over. I fell asleep doing that.
I can imagine that too.
And I woke up and I saw my DS is turned on. I'm like, wait, what was I doing? And I realized I fell asleep while playing this game because I was sailing.
So basically, it's how I felt playing Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire.
Yeah, I didn't even finish the badge challenge in that game because it was so boring.
But yeah, it was just really, really boring. It was a slog for me. I played through it for like 3 to 4 dungeons. I put it down and I just never came back.
I don't want to say that I revel in your pain, but I'm really glad that you brought up that it was boring for you because there's another Zelda game that was really boring for me.
What's up?
And that was Breath of the Wild. So we're gonna have this discussion.
Oh, we're finally doing this?
Oh, boy!
All right, boys. It's time.
So I know that I said I was gonna catch flack about not liking Skyward Sword, but like here's the big meaty center of my
flack catching
of just my deepest darkest secrets, which I flaunt openly. I absolutely despise Breath of the Wild, and I'm really upset that it's got nothing but 10 since it came out, especially because it came out literally between my 2 favorite games of that year,
which was
Horizon Zero Dawn on one side, Persona 5 on the other. It came out between Horizon Zero Dawn and Persona 5. Horizon Zero Dawn being my favorite game, my game of the year for that year, and Persona 5 being number 2 on that list, like number 2 on that list.
Which won Game of the Year, by the way?
Which won Game of the Year and Best RPG. Like, personally, I liked Horizon Zero Dawn a little bit better, but I totally understand everybody loving Persona 5. I'm not going to knock it for that, but oh my god, Breath of the Wild annoyed me. So let's start from the beginning, where they drop you off right in the middle of this big map, and they're like, alright, we don't care what you do. What? What? So, and to really talk about what I dislike about Breath of the Wild, you have to understand what I love about Zelda games. And this is gonna also kind of tie back into what I said about not liking Link Between Worlds. And it's because I like this. I don't want to say that I like structure in all games, because open world games have their place. I like structure in Zelda games. I like progressing through dungeons. I like the way puzzles are set up in dungeons. I like defeating each subsequent boss as they get harder and harder. I like the music, right? And in Breath of the Wild, they take all of that out.
Yeah.
So Breath of the Wild, you don't really get any of the character interactions through the storytelling that you got in the previous games. You don't get that structure of going dungeon to dungeon and taking on each subsequent boss. You don't get music because, for whatever reason, Breath of the Wild is really empty air and it's kind of annoying. And when they put me in the middle of the map and they gave me all of the abilities that I'll ever need and told me, we don't actually care what you do next. There's Ganon. He's the final boss. Fight him. Like, what? Literally, the first mission they give you is to finish the game. Like, here's the last mission. We're going to give it to you first. And if you don't want to do that, that's fine. We don't care. Like, open world is fine, but the story that you tell in an open world game is how your players encounter the world. And if they choose to ignore that storyline and go on their own, there's at least other things for them to do. And I felt like Breath of the Wild was so empty. And there was not a whole lot to it. Because if you ignore the main quest and go and do your own thing, you find a bokoblin camp and you kill all the bokoblins and you move on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
all of the fun that a lot of people had with that was self-made, which, I mean, you know, more power to you if you're making fun out of a game that is absolute garbage, but, like, who am I to judge? I like Skyward Sword, so my opinion doesn't matter for anything.
And I don't hate Zelda, too. So apparently I'm a heathen, too.
So there was all of that, and I was
and we
trying,
all liked Wind Waker before it was cool.
I was trying my hardest to like that game because, and then they gave me the quest. They gave me the picture quest, and I don't know what the actual name of the quest was, but they give you a set of, I think, 20 pictures, and they're like, here are pictures from all across Hyrule. Find these locations, and maybe you'll get your memories back. And I looked at that quest, and I was like, okay, so this is kind of them guiding me through the world. This is how I'm going to experience the game. This is how I'm going to get familiar with my environment. And I activated the quest, and there was no quest marker. And I don't want you to hold my hand and, like, tell me exactly where to go. But also, I kind of want you to tell me where I need to go to finish this. Like, I don't know the world. This is the second quest that I got, right? What am I supposed to do with this picture of a temple? I don't know where this is.
Which temple is this?
It's actually,
Which temple is this? There's only one picture.
and then they dungeon design in that game. There's the four divine beasts, which are really crappy dungeons, by the way. But the actual dungeons, there's over 100 of these crappy little WarioWare dungeons. That you go in, you solve the simplest puzzle, and you leave. And that is so frustrating as somebody who absolutely loves dungeons. And I think dungeons are like one of my favorite part of Wind Waker, along with the actual like feeling of going on an adventure, which I didn't have in Breath of the Wild. And dungeons are one of the biggest redeeming qualities in Skyward Sword for me. And the dungeons are just so minimal and just blah in Breath of the Wild. I have said more than my piece. What do you guys have to say about this? Because I along with having the only 3 Super Mario Sunshine fans, we have the only 3 people who dislike Breath of the Wild at this table too.
Yeah.
Or the only 4 people who dislike Breath of the Wild at this table. So if you guys could continue.
Well,
I know Duncan's going to talk about combat and weapon degradation, which is why I left that to you guys.
Actually,
it's Zelda with Fire Emblem logic.
Actually, okay, hang on.
It's okay. No, take your time.
In regards to that combat that you brought up, I actually didn't mind the combat in
overall
Breath
combat
of the Wild.
is passable.
Combat for me was passable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna delve too deeply into it because I mean I feel like I'm beating a dead horse at this point and saying that other games did it better. But
Which is true. Other games did it better.
But by saying other games did it better can segue into what I want to bring up as a whole about the game.
Is it weapon degradation?
Hold on. I'll get to that, my friend.
Okay.
It's already dead.
Other exploration type games or free form games just like this one, they've done it better. That's my biggest reason why I didn't like Breath of the Wild. I've played games. I played Horizon Zero Dawn. I've played The Witcher 3. I've even played a little bit of Skyrim, and while Skyrim wasn't exactly my cup of tea, I still found some enjoyment out of it because it gave me the one thing that Breath of the Wild didn't give me, and that was
a fun open world experience.
I was going to say fulfillment.
Yeah.
But that
yeah, I
works
mean
as
they're
well.
tied together. They're both very similar.
What
I actually finished Horizon Zero Dawn in time for Breath of the Wild's release, and I was really excited to play a Zelda version of Horizon Zero Dawn, and oh my dismay when I played that game.
So let me tell you something. Back to that example you brought up about taking down an entire camp of goblins or something like that. There was a time when I found a pretty big camp of those things, and I felt that if I were to go ahead and go out of my way to take them out, I'd be rewarded with something really nice. So I was being real tactical with this, by the way. I had fired arrows at the bombs that they had set up there. so they would burn, and I just watched the camp go down in flames. And I'm thinking, all right, let's go ahead, get the loot, and leave and go to the next thing to make my journey a little easier. I go into this whatever crates they have, whatever treasure stuff, and all I get are crappy weapons that break within 1 or 2 hits. It's like, oh.
Boy, a stick.
Boy, I need a bigger stick.
It's like, okay, fine. It's just a crappy camp. Whatever. I go out of my way and find a cave that's like hidden in the mountains somewhere. And I'm like, all right, nice. I know I can get something nice here. Go in said cave, open up the chest. What do I find? More, for lack of a better description, more worthless. When I go out of my way to explore things in a game, I want to receive gratification for my efforts. When I climb that mountain, which this game, when it rains...
Oh yeah, weather conditions do affect the environment around you.
Oh, when it rains, it pours. My God. All right,
Breath of the Wild has a problem where it has a lot of really cool concepts, like weather cycles actually affecting the environment, and then it takes it to a logical conclusion that absolutely ruins the gameplay. Like trying to get a fire from one side of the town to the other, and it keeps raining and putting out the fire, and you literally cannot finish the simple mission because it keeps putting out the fire that it needs you to take
Zelda.
from one end of the town to the other. Why is this happening?
Well,
That's-
Legend of Zelda.
that's-
the realistic edition.
That's exactly my point. Even when I climb tooth and nail in dealing with this stupid rain, to reach the very height of that structure and getting like that achievement that's waiting for you at the top, it's usually a pile of useless shit.
It's a rusted weapon.
Yeah, a rusted weapon. Oh, whoop-de-doo, I got a rusted weapon. Alright, I guess I'll use my rusted weapon against this guardian thing that can one-shot me if I don't parry it right. Oh no, my shield got burned. What do I do now? Oh, I guess I'm shot and I'll die.
Jesus, you make the rain in Gran Turismo sound like
Like I don't want to sound like I didn't even try in this game either, because I logged 8 hours of playing this game. I gave it the old college try, and
You logged 8, my friend. I logged a solid week. And mind you, the only reason why I was able to tolerate this game as long as I did and give it that honest try was because while I was playing this game, due to the lack of music and real background that it had, I filled that void up with the Power Rangers marathon that was going on Twitch. We got Zach over here with Hip Hop Keto, and I'm over here trying to enjoy Breath of the Wild. And that was legit the reason why I was carrying myself through the game. And when that marathon ended, so did my enjoyment.
It's like, yeah, Aristotle method, yeah. Fuck this.
Like, if I have to create background noise to enjoy your game, we have a problem. The towns felt, well, no, the towns did have character.
the towns had character.
I will
but there was
give it
nothing
that.
to it.
Yeah, exactly. How you gonna have a town that has character but feels empty at the same time? How do you manage to do that?
The first couple missions they give you, one is to go defeat Ganon, the other one they're like, you can go defeat Ganon if you want, but that's probably not a good idea. So you should go take these 4 big massive structures down, and we can kind of talk about the Guardians for a little while. I couldn't find anything else to do, so I was like, fine, I'll just throw a quest marker on one of those bad boys and I'll go do that. And I got to it, and because I hadn't spent any time in the world, because the world didn't give me any reason to spend time in it, I had 4 hearts and one
Stamina thingy.
and one single stamina bar. I got thrashed, and after I threw my face at it 3 or 4 times, I was like, oh, why am I playing this? And I just left the Guardian, and then I was like, yeah, no, I'm done with this game.
And that brings me to another point that I have to bring up. Why in God's name does the Master Sword break a lot faster than every other weapon you obtain? Granted, it comes back, but only after 10 minutes. So what do? You break your Master Sword, go take a dump, come back, and it's back in your inventory, only for you to break it again. It's the Master Sword!
the blade of evil's bane.
That is only effective by the beast and Ganon himself. You shouldn't use it any other enemy.
There's no point in using it in any other enemy because it's just going to break and you have to wait for it to come back.
Yeah.
And I mean, the reason it breaks is to keep a feeling of uniformity between all of the weapons. But why do any of the weapons break?
That's another
You can just
thing I
have
hated.
scaling weapons that scale with how far you are in the game based on, how many bars you have or whatever, right?
Or at least be able to have or craft something along with the weapons so the weapons themselves don't break.
Like, that little that shiny blue sword or spear you get later on? When I got those, I held on to those for life because
Which isn't what you're supposed to do with cool weapons, right? You got cool weapons, you're supposed to use them. Like in Skyrim or Horizon Zero Dawn, like I got a new weapon.
Yeah.
I throw that on my equip slot. I go and I beat up some monsters or robots with it. And I'm satisfied.
Yes.
But in Zelda, when you get a good weapon, the system itself promotes you not using it, which is the opposite of what you want a combat system to do.
And I'm just like, I got this really cool sword early on.
Better never use it.
It's like, I'm like, all right, I'm Link from what was it? From Star Wars now. I'm like a Jedi over here. What are you going to do? Oh, crap.
Oh, the Guardian swords, the ones that glow?
Yeah. Dude, I love getting those. Those and the spear versions and the shields they drop, love them. And then they break. And then I cry. And then I question why I'm still playing.
Quick question. Unlike the Master Sword, where I know that it comes back after you break, if you break the Guardian weapons, can you get those back?
You have to find another drop. You have somewhere else that drops a Guardian sword.
Yeah.
It doesn't reform or anything like that. You actually just have to find another one.
You just have to hope and pray that another enemy can drop it. Oh, speaking of hoping and praying,
Oh dear.
This has happened to me far too many times when enemies ragdoll off cliffs. You
lose all your loot.
You see a weapon that you can use or a really cool item they have or just material that you need that they drop. You better hope he doesn't fall off of a cliff and just dies because all that loot's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Yeah, I genuinely don't understand why it got so critically acclaimed.
Because people were thirsty for a brand new Zelda title after Skyward Sword, and it was open world, and it was pretty with everything else in between.
You could have just played. You could honestly, if I had my way, if anybody came in to buy to buy Breath of the Wild when I worked at GameStop, I didn't do this, but I wish I did. If I could have convinced somebody, just drop the $300, get a pre-owned Wii U and a copy of Wind Waker HD. I promise you'll have way more fun. It's way better.
It's not like
it's a lot harder of a sell to be like, I know that you want to buy this $60 game, but believe me, the $300 is way better.
It's not that I hate the game because it's not Zelda.
I mean, I hate the game because it's not Zelda, but that's just me.
I hate the game simply because, again, I've played other games that does what this does, but so much better.
Mm-hmm.
If it did exactly what the others did, but executed extremely well, then I would have no ill will towards the game at all. I would actually be enjoying myself.
I don't think it should have been a Zelda game.
Yeah.
I think that the fact that it was a Zelda game and then it tried to do things that Zelda games don't do and then it didn't even do those very well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one of the things, that's a big detriment, and that's why I think one of the reasons that I didn't enjoy it so much.
You know what game that isn't a Zelda game but still did the Zelda thing better than Breath of the Wild? It is going to piss a lot of people off.
Oh boy.
I'm already
Star Fox Adventures!
Andy looks like he wants to say something.
I'm not going to comment on it.
He'll come up to the mic real quick. No comment.
Do you have anything to say about Breath of the Wild before
All right, Andy, your
give us an official wrap up?
Oh, did you say your thoughts?
Oh no! Literally, when it came to Breath of the Wild, I at first when it was first being revealed and seeing all the worlds and how they look, which they look pretty good.
It takes the Skyward Sword art style to a nice place.
Yes, and I was excited. I was excited that I'm going to be exploring the worlds. I didn't hear much about it until after it came out. I think it was one of our friends was playing it, and I was looking. No, it wasn't Andy. It was someone else. And I was just looking at it, and I'm like, seeing what they were doing, how they were playing. Mind you, this was a certain other friend that we have that was playing it, so that probably wasn't helping either, because they weren't necessarily playing it well. But taking that aside, the fact that they were having so much trouble in the first camp, the first enemy camp, because they were dying because of the stupidest stuff. And I'm like, okay, maybe if you did it this way or that way, maybe you can have a better time clearing this. And then I just saw the weapons breaking, the fact that they literally used up all resources just in an instant. And I'm like, okay, so now what do you do? And they're like, oh, you got to run away now because you can't do anything. And it's like, what?
Yeah. Just the combat system promotes not playing the game, and there's a lot of different points where you can see that. But yeah, Andy.
So, take all those
something
things.
for the class.
So, take all those problems, but going into this game with really high expectations. Like, I really love the merch that was for. In fact, I'm holding a Breath of the Wild scarf right now.
I have that same scarf too,
which my students love a little bit too much. I love the amiibos that they came out with. Really cool.
And you have to say the design for Zelda is one of the few things that I absolutely love about the game. I think that her redesign is adorable.
The visuals for the game is amazing.
Overall, the visuals I think are really good.
Like, it's a beautiful looking game. And one of my and before I bought the Switch, one of my buddies, Mike, who I recorded the opening song with for this podcast, he lent me his Nintendo Switch for about a week or two, just so I could get a feel for the Switch and a feel for Breath of the Wild, and he also had a couple of digital games, and he had Super Bomberman R, which I still have. I don't know. I kind of enjoyed it a little bit, but then those problems started to really sink in. And when I finally bought my own Switch, which I bought off of QVC, yes, I actually bought my console off of QVC because it came with a game. And Breath of the Wild was that game included. I cringed looking at my unboxing for the Nintendo Switch along with that game because I am looking forward to really spending time to play this game. And
I tried to warn you.
I'm so sorry.
You can't say I didn't.
Those issues we just talked about.
You can't say I didn't warn you because I'm pretty sure
you did. You definitely did.
I had the whole spiel that I just had at like the middle point of this podcast. I had that with Andy. I had a conversation with him before he got the game. I was just like, everybody's welcome to their own opinion. I want you to play the game and come to those conclusions yourself, but I really don't like this. So just fair warning.
I don't think I ever spoke to you about it.
I don't think we had a conversation about it, no.
No.
And unfortunately, the heartbreaking thing about the game is just it's so disappointing. It's like, with all the hype, all the build-up, the merch, and all that, it's like, oh yeah, I thought this was going to be like the killer thing for the Switch.
It was the launch title for it, and it was critically acclaimed everywhere with 10 out of 10s, and it won overall Game of the Year for that year at the end.
And it ended up giving me a game that
Much to my chagrin.
And it ended up giving me a game that I would rather play the first Zelda over any day.
Holy crap!
Like, no, it makes me want to go to the Nintendo Online NES Classics thing, play Legend of Zelda, not the special one, the regular one,
the original,
one.
Then play this $60 game.
You know what's sad? They actually based Breath of the Wild off of the first game too.
They took a lot of open
let's
worlds.
Make it less fun to play.
No, from the way it sounds like, because mind you, when the game came out, I didn't have a Switch at the time, and Andy did, and then I heard you guys were having that conversation. And mind you, this was during the time where I was hopeful to the game, and then I had that talk with you, and you're telling me how much it wasn't gonna be a good time with this game. And then once I started seeing like the videos and people playing it, I'm like, ooh,
So-
it's a good thing I don't have a Switch right now.
I don't take joy in being the poison of the group and just being the one that's like always cynical about everything. But I always want somebody to make their own opinion. I don't want you to just listen to me. Like if I tell you that I hate this Zelda game, I want you to play it so that you can agree with me, or I want you to play it so that you can disagree with me and we can have a conversation about it. But like I don't want it to come off like me being like, guys, Breath of the Wild is a terrible game, don't play it. Which might be true for me. It's not always going to be true for everybody.
Unfortunately, it's like it just ended up being one of the most boring pieces
yeah.
of crap I ever played.
It bored me.
Oh, yes.
At the end of the day, like a good game, you can say it's good for all of these different reasons. A good game is a game that you have fun with. And Breath of the Wild,
this is one I can't defend.
I
should not be saying Star Fox Adventures is a better Zelda game than actual Zelda game.
But you're not wrong.
I know that, and that's what pains me.
That's what hurts me. He doesn't want... No, don't get anyone wrong. He doesn't want to say this.
But unfortunately, it is.
All right, guys. I think that's going to wrap up our discussion for this week. Thank you all very much for listening. If you guys could leave us a comment, I'll read it. And I'll comment back. I need friends.
And the house also
The house is angry at me. All right, guys. Join us next week where a blue hedgehog foils our plans once again. I've been not Josh.
I'm Helios.
And I've been too elusive.
I'm sad.
All right, thank you, everybody. Good night.
Well, I was also there with other Josh at the same exact event. Been there since 8:30 actually, and
it opened at 10, so
it paid off really well because I did get to. Yeah, please somebody get that. Can you mute that? So we're gonna completely edit that out, and I'll just start up again.
Passion me this thing.
Oh, I can't wait to do a video podcast.
All right, so blooper aside.
All right, start. Take it from the top.
Yep. So I was also with other Josh over at the same exact event, and I was there since 8:30.
Wow.
Take 3.
Third time's a charm.
Please make that this thing.
There's so much material.
Okay, we good?
Yeah.
All right, take 3.
Good.